but later on we'll switch that over. Tonight we're going to be taking a look or talking about the intake manifolds I'm testing. I got the 3800 up on the dyno still, and we're running all of the different NA intake manifolds. So we're going to run you can see we got some dyno curves up there. You can kind of see we're going to compare the aluminum and the composite or plastic front wheel drive intake manifolds. And then also we're going to be running the short runner versions of those with the like port stuffer deals. So we'll be putting those in, testing runner lengths. We'll also be running, I want to rerun the intake manifold with the blower top, where we've got the blower out, and use the blower manifold and see what the differences there on those different powers. I want to do remove the backing plate again. And then the cool thing is, even with the long runner manifolds, I can do the same thing. So what I'm going to do, I won't be doing it tonight on camera, unfortunately. It would be kind of cool because I need somebody here to help me. But what we'll do is, we'll just go to wide open throttle, and then we'll just pull the whole top of the manifold off, just to kind of see what happens. It'll be short runner, there'll be no radius entry, but it would be kind of cool to see what happens. It should be comparable to the short runner lower blower manifold that we kind of did that too. So it would be, you're on the dyno, so you might as well try stuff like that because it's pretty cool. So we're going to be running that, and we can make some pulls tonight when everybody gets here. I've got the motor ready. I've already made some runs. We're testing obviously the difference in pretty significant difference in runner length given these upper manifolds. The nice thing I like is that we can, when I run these, I can keep the same lower manifold for a whole bunch of testing. So we can test both upper portions, the composite one and the aluminum one, and then both short runner versions of those, and then the pulling the lid version. And then the final one will be to change it over and put the short runner manifold on for the blower and do that test and find out, it'll give us a fairly good idea. I can already kind of tell from the preliminary testing that I've been doing that, not surprisingly, the short runner one is probably going to make maybe a little bit more power at the top, and the long runner stuff is going to be much more torquey, and, we would kind of expect that. The interesting thing is if you take a look at that and apply that to, use with a turbo, where do you want your turbos spooled up? So the extra torque down low is definitely going to come in handy to spool the turbo up. So I think a lot of guys would probably run the long runner stuff. And I don't know how unfortunately I wasn't able to get a hold of a Camaro one. I'd like to see how the Camaro one compares to this. So we can take a walk in and we'll take a look at what's going on here. I'm going to unplug you for a second. And let me know if you have better mic quality now, because I just plugged that in. Hopefully it didn't change my sound. So this is the motor on the dyno. We can make a few pulls on the camera, like I said, it'll be kind of cool. So we have the aluminum one on there now. And the cool thing is this manifold, this later one, actually uses the same throttle body as the late model blower does. So it just bolted right on, so I didn't have to modify another one because you can see we have our Super Ritchie drive-by wire. So I could go ahead and use that one. And then on the other one, it will have this, you can see this throttle body here, but it's already got a linkage, so it's not a problem. You can see I've got this thing set up already with the, these little port stuffer deals. This is on the composite one. This is actually for the aluminum one. So if we have enough time, we'll see if we get, enough people want to try this. What we could do is make a pull, and then maybe I can pull this manifold off, pull this upper off, and I can take the runner sections out of it, which look like this. You can kind of see the runner sections. Whoa! So that's how much they're changing. And it's actually a little more than that because the inside of the manifold completes the rest of this part that you see that's missing. So it goes all the way up to about halfway. They wrap about halfway up to the top of the manifold. So we got that much runner length. The other thing I might try to do is I might try to cut these down, maybe halfway or something, and see how that works. All these inserts are plastic, even the one in the aluminum one. And then we would go to this. This is a much shorter version. This is just, you know, basically that much plus the part that's in the lower. You can kind of see in here. So it will be interesting to see what happens. You know, it's always good to do runner length tests because, you know, you get to see the big change. I just need to make sure I've got some fuel. I've got to go over and get some more. Yeah, I got enough for a couple of hits. Got to test it all, right? Because that's how you find things out. That's how you find the answers. So maybe I'll get this thing prepped and we'll try to make a run here and see what's going on. We'll get it all ready. Yeah, Dyno. Okay. Make some power now. Gotta put a little bit of heat in it. Probably here it's got a couple vacuum leaks. It's hard to get them all plugged. Works out just fine when it goes wide open throttle though. Time to go. So see how it did? Should be like 263 or something. Yep. What the heck's going on here? I got a big dip in there. Where's our dip from? Oh, it was lean. You gotta adjust that. Doesn't like being lean. So the best run so far is 263 horsepower at 267 foot-pounds. That's with the long runner manifold on there. It's making peak power at 5,900 RPM. Peak torque is happening down at 42 or 4,300 RPM. You can kind of get you zoomed in there so you can see that a little bit better. Peak torque here, peak power here. This is the fuel flow. That's kind of worthless right now. So to give you an idea on how this compares to like the short runner manifold, so the short runner manifolds in red, it makes obviously a lot less torque down low, which you expect. They're kind of even at about 5,000 or so. Then the long run one still does a little bit better, up to about 5,900 or so, 5,950. And then the short runner one gets a little better. But up to 6,000 RPM, the long runner one, still definitely the way to go. If you want to go beyond that. But, and here's a little preview for one of the videos I have coming up. So take a look at that. That's what happened when we removed the plate from the back of the blower manifold on our short runner deal. It like that. It picked up a lot of power. It's still doing kind of the same thing in terms of, you know, being a short runner and not making power down here, but it wanted all the extra flow up on the big end. So you can see it definitely needs more. It needed more flow. So the inlet side of that blower manifold, or of the blower housing, is definitely restrictive. And by the way, when I ran the blower manifold, I'm gonna go ahead and here you guys are the mic's gonna change. When we ran the manifold, the short runner blower manifold with the hogged out blower, I also opened and I have a video up where we opened the bypass valve to get extra flow in, and it like that. It definitely picked up power doing that. So it wanted more flow going in there. And then I did the video where we cut out the section of the blower housing, the V section, you know, the discharge for the supercharger. And that picked up a little bit, probably not a ton, just a couple. So the restriction was in the airflow getting into that casing, and not in the manifold, not in the lower manifold itself, just the air getting in through the throttle body. And once we got rid of that, well, we didn't get rid of the throttle body. Once we opened up much more throttle body, it worked out very well. So I'm going to take you guys in. We're going to go in, and I got to go and turn the water valves off. By the way, I also today ran I'll show you what pulleys I ran. So obviously we've run this one. Let's see, I can get you a good light there. There we go. We ran this one, which is a 3-inch. And then we obviously at one point had run this 3.8-inch. But we also ran this one. .6, and you can see I had to do the super rich porting on the housing. Captain Hack and Slash of the Connecticut Hack and Slashes. So we had to grind that down a little bit to get it. The belt was slipping with the first belt that I had on there because I didn't have anything that would make it very tight. I went over to Napa and got a shorter belt, and it's a 72 and 5/8, I believe. Yeah, it was a I had a 710, 714, a 724, and I ended up with a 721. And the 721 seemed to hold pretty well. It looked like I data logged the run, so we have a climbing boost curve, so it didn't look like it was slipping. And we saw, cog belts definitely are the way to go for a blower. It's much easier. What that thing needs, though, is it needs more flow. The blower needs to be bigger. It needs porting. It needs a bigger throttle body. You know, it needs all that stuff. So go ahead and turn my pump on here. So that was a lot of fun because I'll show you some of the aluminum shavings here. Because I'm sure, unlike most people, I did the porting with the blower on the motor because it was already running and ready to go, and I just wanted to do the pulley change. So I just took the pulley off and just started grinding away until it fit, and you know it worked out good. So I think now I'll go ahead and make sure my valve is closed. I'm going to go ahead and I'll bring you guys in and maybe work on this thing for a little bit and see if we can't get a blower swap or get a intake manifold swap done. And if we can, we'll make another run, hopefully before the end of the session tonight. You get to see us. Uh-oh. Kind of lost myself for a while there. Okay. Get you guys all set up over here. And as expected, the 2.6 pulley did increase the boost. big surprise there. So just to make sure that we it seems to spin pretty freely. Somebody's concerned about the AC clutch, and I was just spinning it. It spins pretty freely. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and pull this upper portion of the manifold off, and you guys can, watch and learn all the greatness. Okay. Get rid of my drive-by-wire throttle body here. Fancy return spring. Got to turn my computer off. Okay. Pull these off. Got a lot of stuff going on up here. Lots and lots of stuff. I might be able to pull that forward. No. So I'll show you guys. Some of you guys are probably wondering, hey, Richard, but you have blower heads on there and an NA intake manifold, and both of those have injector ports in them. Yeah, they're dual injectors. That's how we do it. Get that, yeah, full race. Stage injection, full race. Well, 3/4 race, more like it. And I just wondered how long it's going to be before somebody asks me, well, did you test it with the injectors in both positions or in one position and then the other? Because, you know, it's going to make a difference in power, right? Big, crazy power. Please don't take my heart away. Go. Yeah, nice. King of the zip ties. Okay. We got this upper intake. Please don't take my heart away. What is that? What do you got going on there? There we go. That's what we need. Alrighty. Okay. Well, let's see if I did everything right. Got my vacuum caps. Ta-da! Don't worry, I didn't forget about you. Just going for a ride. Okay, so here's what we're doing. So this is our aluminum manifold. Pull this runner section out. going to put this section in, I think it's this one. There we go. Nice. And then what I've got to do, you see these right here? It's right here. And this, I've got to go modify that. I got to go cut those off so that it goes in there nicely. Otherwise, they'll hit that insert. So I got to do that. So here's what I like to do. Don't put your eye out. Twing, twing. These are a little thicker. You gotta man up for these. Twing, twing. Okay, say it with me. Curve, twing. So now it leaves a little bit of nub, so I'm just gonna run over the grinder and just buff those down a little bit. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. There we go. It's all buffed and shiny and fancy. So now, see if I remember how to put this back together. The dowel's locating it. It's kind of nice, makes life easier. There we go. All ready to go. So now I'll go ahead and slap this baby on. Put you guys back in the corner. Nobody puts baby in the corner. Yeah, that's right. Dirty Dancing reference. So now we'll see if this will go back on. Without damaging too many of the, oh, you gotta stay in place there. The word for today is cooperation. You knew that you could. There we go. Let the old harness nest out of the way. Hold it up. It's official now. Okay, put in some high voltage rock and roll. So how much power is this going to make? Let's see some guesses out there. There has to be some actual dyno testing of this, I would imagine. different size bolts on here. Click, click. Click, click. That's how you know it's official. Okay. One size fits all vacuum line for our map sensor. Okay, does anybody remember where all that stuff goes? Had a little scare last night, thought I blew the motor up. But, alas, I did not. But I did take it all apart, thought I broke a water pump, or I thought I broke the oil pump, but I didn't. So I was happy. There's much happiness in the kingdom. This is my extra ground wire, just in case. Here's a little tip for you. I always scribe the injector numbers on here, just so I don't have to remember color codes or anything. We know which ones they are, and they just go right in. Vacuum plug. There's a big hole in the side of this manifold. That's all good. These ones are still plugged in. One temp sensor's all good. Not that we're not modifying it based on coolant anyway, but because it's already cold. Not cold like Canada cold, just cold like cold that they'd run it on the street. Look up my fancy return spring. There we go, that's all good. It's looking kind of sporty. So now we'll see if we'll get the dyno turned on and see if I knew what I was doing. Yeah, whoever guesses closest, I still have a Killer Bee Racing from my road racing deal. I still have one of their shirts left over, so whoever gets the guess right will win that. Or I'm just gonna grab somebody arbitrarily because everybody wants to fight about that. I was hoping you might change my mind. So this will be cool because we'll get to go through a tuning procedure, because this shorter runner is definitely going to need... Hope you remember to turn the water valve on. That's what these are right here. And that valve in the back. Okay, let's reconnect. And we're there. Okay, so this will be interesting. We just shortened the runner like dramatically. Obviously, we're going to have to tune it too. So you guys will get to see what happens with the tune. I'll go ahead and make a pull the way that it is, because it's probably going to be, I'm guessing it's going to be rich down low because it's not going to make as much power. And it might lean out a little bit at the top. We're guessing that because the fuel stays the same, but the power is going to be different. So what happens is when you do that, the airfield changes. So we're not going to change the timing is still going to be fixed. It's, well, fixed. It's, it ranges from 26 down low to 29 at the top. Is kind of, it seems to be where the thing wants to run. But we'll take a look and warm this thing up and make a run and see what our airfield curve looks like, in addition to kind of what the power looks like before we tune it. And that's on. It started! That's a good sign! So what are some of the guesses? Yeah, it already made 265 or something. I need to look and see. I must have a giant vacuum leak somewhere. 273, you saw it here first. So, and it's going to be the run after it's tuned, not the first one. So we'll see how it does. Putting the water temperature up, that's pretty cool. Okay, we'll try it, and it's actually, if it's cold, that will help it down low a little bit. But we'll make a run at temperature. But we'll have to do a little tuning. So let's see what happens. So you guys keep an eye on the airfield or watch this. Okay. Wow, look at that. It's already at 270. So let's just get a peek at how that compares to what we ran before. So what's happening there, and I'll let you guys see. I mean, we're going to still do a little bit of tuning here, but you can kind of see. I'll get rid of the fuel flow because it makes it easier to see. So the short runners are making less power all the way up to 5,700. So we're gonna take a look at what the airfield difference is between those two, and then we'll make adjustments accordingly. So right now, the run that we just ran is leaner at the top, about the same down low, oddly enough. I remember I was telling you that's probably because of the temperature, but I'll go ahead and what I'll do is we'll just go over to the Holly here. We'll take some fuel away. That's probably, so that's 13.1 down to 12.6. So we'll call that, and we'll start at about, really about 5,500, 5,250. So at 5,250, we'll take away, I don't know, 2, 5,000, 4. I'm going the wrong way. We need to add. Why didn't somebody correct me on that? And 5,750, same kind of thing. 6,000. Okay, so we've added fuel. Now we're going to find out if it what it did. It might be that that's the best run already. We'll have to see. Okay, so first we'll look at what happened on that run. I wonder what's going on with that dip there. That's not tuning because I didn't change the fuel there. So we're looking at 11 and 10. Oh, okay. So we did pick up a little bit of power in the middle here, or from 5,000 on up. The peak number stayed roughly the same, 270 and 269 and change. What was it? Yeah, 269.6. So that kind of stayed the same. Let's take a look at our Airfield Curve here. So that was our. So that's what here. You guys can't see that. So this is what it did. So we changed from 13-1 down to, this is 12.4. It all went all the way down to 12.2 down here. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, that's way too rich. It needs to make more power. It needs to run at 13-1. Except that that's the air fuel difference, and this is the power difference. So by it being richer, we gained more power. Except at the very, very top, maybe at the very top at 6,300. Let's see what our difference is at 6,300. We might have gone a little bit too rich there. I could take some away. I could take a couple of clicks away there from 6,000 on out. I got a little heavy there. You know how we do it. I got a little bit heavy there. So we'll make one more pull with the short runner deal and see what's going on. We might need to rev this out a little bit farther. What the heck? Let's go to 6,500. 6,500! I need to fix whatever vacuum leak's going on. 271. Big power change, big power gain. That's what we're all about here. When you can pick up 2 horsepower like that, it's pretty impressive. See, bingo. You got to zoom in really close to see the 2 horsepower. Yeah, 291 is not going to happen. The only way 291 would happen, maybe if we took that thing off. So if somebody said 291, that's probably a pretty good guess. So here's our long runner versus our short runner, and that does exactly what we would expect it to do. It makes less power down low and more power up top. Hey, imagine that. Pretty cool, huh? So now what I'm gonna do, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and do that same test with the, we'll do the same test with the composite manifold, and then we'll put the other short runner manifold on there. I think maybe we should probably do the test with pulling the lid off, right? I think so. We have time. Oh, no, that's actually going to take quite a bit of time because I forgot I gotta figure a way to get the harness all out of the way and all that stuff. So that's going to take a little bit. Long runner makes more power down low. Yeah, who would have thought that, right? So all seems to be good. And that, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. For those keeping record, that's probably run number, I don't know. It's got to be 90 or 100 on this motor already. And when I say 90 or 100, I mean on this dyno session. Not on the others that we've already run. So, you know, let's compare that to the run that I made with the short runner and the open deal. Let's see here. And the no plate. Look at that. Here, let's zoom in so you guys can see that. It's our no plate. Now I want to duplicate that too, but you can kind of see. The other one made 277 and was better from, I don't know, 5,000 or something. And was better than the short runner of this version from 4,600. So it'll be interesting to see. What I think is if you have it kind of looks like so far the best combination, if you're going to turbocharge this motor, would be the short runner blower manifold with the blower casing, but with a big throttle body. Now, if you're going to run a turbo on it, that might not be an issue anyway, because you're not going to have the same airflow restriction. But by having that plate and making a throttle body facing forward on the plate, you could put a giant one on there. Even with the accessories and stuff in the way, you can just make whatever size tube you want, just weld on a 3.5 or whatever and aim it at whatever angle it needs to be or whatever turn it needs to be and put the throttle body out there. We've run relocated throttle bodies as long as you have enough room and you just might have to extend your TPS and IAC if you're running that stuff. But that's not a big deal. But a bigger throttle body on this thing, it definitely wants that. And the long runner stuff is kind of a little disappointing. I mean, it'd be good for turbo response. And really the difference between, what are we seeing here? 263 versus 271. Really that difference is, you know, that's going to be less than a half a pound of boost. So if you want to make the more power with a turbo and you want to have good low speed response, the long runner manifold is kind of the way to go. It's like picking a truck manifold on an LS over almost anything. Because, and especially like if we have a turbo that will only make 450 or 500 horsepower, then definitely do the long runner one because you're going to be running in that range. It'll be much better. But the cool thing is this will give everybody lots and lots of stuff to argue about, and that we know that that's what everybody wants. So I'll be curious to see what happens if I can get the harness out of the way. I want to see what happens if we remove this lid. What happens if I want to see if these throttle bodies, this is the bigger of the two throttle bodies. The earlier composite version has a smaller throttle body, although it's got a weird taper shape on the exit side. So I don't know. It would be an interesting thing. I already took and knocked the screen out of the mass air meter because obviously we're not using the mass air meter portion. We're only using it as a throttle body. And one of the things I used to do back in the day when I owned Ram Air Technology is that we would alter the electronics also, but we would also make these throttle bodies flow more, and we would go in and port it, and definitely radiusing the outer edges of that, getting rid of the lock ring groove and stuff, getting rid of all that, and having it be a nice, you know, a nice gentle flare, picks up a lot of airflow on the throttle body. So that could be something too. I think ultimately the size of the bore though is going to determine what the flow rate is. Troy, what's up? So I think we're done. I want to make sure I got my valve shut. I think I do. I'm going to just double check that and make sure, and we can do some questions maybe. Andy, did I hear that thing start? Yeah, what's up? Okay, so let's see what kind of questions you guys got going on. Got my booster shot today. Yep, I did mine. Looks like at JB1. Cool. So somebody sent me an email or something and let me know. Whenever I tell people that, I get all kinds of people like trying to horn in on somebody else's win. Oh, I do need a drink. Joe Boo needs a refill. Oh, it said 272. That's pretty close. 271.4. Building Whipple 3.8 race version on a bunch of Coyotes. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of late model Coyote stuff, only the first gen. So when does the nitrous and boost, big bang, and all of that's not going to happen, just with the turbo. I'd like to see it making power over 6,000. It did on this run. It made peak power at 6,200, all the way up at 6,200. So you want to see a comparison of a small block Chevy shootout, a 350 versus a 305. If you run the same components on them, if you really restrict them and run bad components on them, they're going to make similar peak powers, but the bigger motor will make a lot more average power, a lot more torque down low. If you put good stuff on them, then the big motor will make more power everywhere. Are you going to use this for a big bang motor? Yeah, this one is. That's the plan for this one. What cams in us show us the ported heads are actually on there right now. And they didn't work very well. They made the same power as the stock ones. What would happen if I run the Plenum empty? Well, that Plenum is empty other than those little, the port spacer deals that they put in there are not to change Plenum volume. They're actually as a radius entry into the port to help it flow. Somebody was telling me that the F-body intake was not good. I'd still want to test it to find out. Are iron and aluminum LS blocks identical? Yes, they are. I did flow test the heads. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the head that I got back flowed a little bit less than when I gave it to him. So it didn't turn out very well. Porting's never cheap. Would a Gen 4 supercharger work on an LS6? What is a Gen 4 supercharger? Like an LSA blower? Yeah, people put those on all the time, if that's what you're talking about. I haven't found any rear-wheel drive headers, but honestly, I haven't really looked that much. Do you get money back when they flow less? No, I don't think so. Whatever happened to the ported Ameribear head? I never got one. That wasn't me. That's Calvin. Did you adjust the valve size of the port work? No, when I ported them, I kept the stock valve sizes, and we kept the stock valve sizes in this. We're gonna put bigger valves in it, but I know that there was a lot more flow than what I got out of it. I don't want to adapt that Cadillac blower to this. That would be way too hard. The ALUM 7 is a good way to go. It works really well. We've made 1 million horsepower with those things. The what's an M199? An I don't know what that is. Yeah, I did speak to Eric Weingartner. Yeah, I don't think there's too many V6 header Camaro headers. Did you flow bench the ported heads? Yes, I did. The Aussie manifold has long runners. Almost all the factory NA ones are going to have long runners. They're trying to get good average power production. They want this thing to feel torquey, and it definitely would. The 232-240 cam is a little close. I like to have a wider split than that, but it will work, and it will probably fit. 232 is probably fit depending on the LSA. But don't worry about cathedral port versus rec port cams. They're the same. I don't, John, you'd have to check and see. He wants to know if he can get away with running stock springs on a comp cam. I don't think you can. I think that the stock springs are really weak and pretty small, but you'd have to check and see. Richard, is the 3800 throttle body a square? It is a square 4-bolt on the later version, on the aluminum manifold. The heads did not lose power, they just didn't, they lost flow. They made the same power. They made the same power as stock. They flow more than stock, they just didn't flow more than when I ported them. And is it a 6-pin or an 8-pin harness? I don't know, I'd have to look and see. I don't have the harness on there. We don't use that, we just use it as a manual throttle body. Yeah, Gen 6 heads would be a good upgrade for peanut port heads. I need to do that test so I can show people. I need to do a Gen 5 motor and then put Gen 6 heads on it. How is your porting in comparison to having them ported? When I ported them, they flowed I don't know, 208 or 209 or something like that. And then the best flow I could get out of them when I flowed them was like 202 or 203. That wasn't a big money port job. They look really nice. I just was surprised about the flow bench numbers. I think that we use the Speedmaster heads, but we had them gone through. Bryce at Dr. J's did our Speedmaster Cleveland heads, and we changed a lot of stuff on it, and they work really good. Factory GM Kegladon. I need to get that back. I actually want to send that to Cletus. I want to send that to Garrett. I still want to run the Barry. Yeah, I just don't have a bell housing or harness for it. I don't know how much this motor will make once it's right and making. I'd like the Big Bang NA motor to start out at 300 horsepower. I'm not porting iron heads. I'm going to send a set to Eric, and he's going to do them, which will be cool because he knows what he's doing. He's like the real deal. I am not. If you saw how I was modifying the snout of the blower, you would have cringed. But, you know, it got done. It's ready. And I got to test it. The Big Bang K series has not happened yet. But my buddy Ish just ran his K series, and it's a bone stock K24 with a boost and on E85, and he made 540 at the tire, and he's just out of fuel. His pump assembly is not good enough. When are you going to run the best cam? I don't know. Soon, I hope. I don't even have one yet. I ran a 2.6 blower pulley, is the smallest one. Mike wants to know, would you rather run a blower or a turbo for a weekend warrior? I think once you see what happens when we put a turbo on here and run it at the same boost, I think you'll have your answer. Yeah, Eric does know. He does know porting. I've watched his stuff. He's very methodical and he likes to test stuff. What's your go-to ring gap? I put 30 in it. You could do 28, but 28 to 30 in there, it's all fine. There was dyno pulls already earlier. We even did an intake swap. Where were you at, man? We were here. All of us were partying. 509 in New Zealand. Yeah. House of Kiwis. Yeah, I think Pace Hitter does make a header for that. I don't remember what they cost. Did you do a gradual drop in pulley size? Yeah, I've run this thing in various stages of tune. We've run the stock pulley. I've ran a 3.4, a 3.2, 3.8 obviously, and a 3.0 and a 2.6. Plug gap, I put them down at 19 or 20. ProCharger P1SC or D1SC. I don't know if I've run a P1SC. I've run the D1SC and it did good. You could do 1,000 horsepower with that. You have to have a good size intercooler on it though. I don't know if China makes these V6 headers. They might. Wow, 2 p.m. in Australia. Nice. Indiana. What do you think? Looks better, blower, turbo? I think twin turbos looks really good. AFR heads with dual springs work with the sloppy stage 2. Yeah, their spring packages probably will. That's a sub 600 lift cam, so. The Raspberry Lemon Drop is the best of the Lemon Drop family. Yes, so it's the manliest. No, you're not gonna find any cheap screw blowers that I know of. Yeah, it would be cool to do a CVT blower pulley. That would be awesome. This is a rerun. I don't know how that's possible. How can you do a rerun of a live? Mild steel headers put rust in the rings. How do they get that rust to go backwards? The machining on a screw blower is really, really intricate. We don't notice any heat. We only notice gains in every pulley step that we made, but we have lots of cold water now going through an intercooler. We didn't get as much of a gain on top as we did on the bottom, and I don't think that that has anything to do with the pulley size. I think that has to do with the flow rate of the blower. I think that as you go up and boost, down low, the airflow can support that. But I think as we go up in RPM, I don't think it can. I think we would see greater gains if we had a ported blower and then did the pulley step change with a ported blower pulley or a ported blower housing. I think we'd see greater gains with all the different pulleys. Kenny Bell superchargers are definitely reliable. How much horsepower without changing timing? You don't want to change timing. If you don't want to change timing, you should add octane. But you could add a 50 shot without changing timing as long as you had the right fuel going to it. 871 on a V6 seems like a lot of blower. So meaning, by that I mean it's perfect. Would I actually run a GT45 on a street car? Yeah, we definitely would. All right, Joseph, we'll take it easy, man. I'm gonna run that on this motor. Yeah, I don't want, shorty headers aren't gonna do anything. That's what's already on there. And that's why they didn't gain a big amount of power over the stock exhaust manifolds, just because they're shorty headers. Bank said mild steel will send rust up the exhaust. It sends rust out the exhaust, but I don't think it will go back up. I mean, maybe there's a reversion time when that could happen. Dale's a pretty sharp guy, though. But I won't believe it unless I see it in a clear header. So I can actually see the rust going up. So Gail, there you go, thrown out to you. You need to make clear headers so that I can watch that happen. Stuck between twin GT45s or nitrous. Well, the twin GT45s will make a lot more than the nitrous will. GT35 is probably not too much, but it can do like 500 at the tire, maybe more. And I don't know exactly, but Ish's turbo is from Turbonetics, and they said that it's supposed to be like a GT35 82R, a real Garrett one. And he's at 540 at the tire, and he's only at 17 pounds. So we think that his might go to 700. We did a compound boost. But you guys all know that, right? How much horsepower does it take to turn an 871? Well, it depends on how fast you're spinning it and how much airflow you're making. Tom, I think you're going to be a lot happier with the GT35 on that motor than you will with the GT45. Kevin, thank you very much. And I plan to. I need a cold one. Guy dropped a header on the collector and we saw the rust fall. I know that they do that all the time. I've done that on lots of exhausts. I did that on the exhaust Y pipe that I have that I run on all the turbo stuff. There is rust in there. But I want to know how it goes back into the valve. There's more concern on a Y pipe because then all of that can go into the turbo, which is not good. Yeah, Gail needs to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, Tyler, if I started off with an NA version of this motor, we would be closer. There's a lot better camshaft that I can run on this. And then if I get heads that actually improve the performance, it will definitely be near 300. And it might be over that. A clogged catalytic converter, if it's all burned up inside, it's definitely going to have to be replaced. What did you play in Matt Happel's? I couldn't read the whole thing. Maybe a mild steel boat header that's turned up and has water going in it. What hand did you play in Happel's new camshaft? I'm going to test it. I would really love to have one of these motors in a Fiero. I would like to try different turbos on this. I don't know that I'll be able to do it this time because I don't have the flanges that I need for the max speeding turbos that I want to try. I was looking at a Fiero. I ended up buying an MR2 because I thought it was a better car, and this was back in '86. And I really like the MR2. I'm glad that I bought it. It was a very, very fun little car. It needed, like, if it had 100 more horsepower, it would be awesome. But the Fiero would be cool with, you know, supercharged power. We're getting Russ comments. Yes, the 4-bolt flange. It's a 4-bolt to a 3-inch V-band, I think. They come in different sizes, and I don't know if the one on I think I have a couple of their turbos. I have GT3076s and GT3582s, and there's one other one that I thought was another GT45, but I don't think it is. It looks small. Somebody's asking a question about length. You're going to have to ask it again. Yes, Dylan, I have run motors on the engine dyno and put them on the chassis dyno. There's a big difference. It's not an absolute number and it's not a percentage because, like with this motor right now, we're running all the accessories on it. A lot of times we don't run the accessories. There's going to be power there. We run an electric water pump. We run it at a different temperature than you do in the car. We don't run a full exhaust. You run a full exhaust in the car. All of those things, and then that's not even discounting that's discounting all of the drivetrain losses, which are going to be something else that's different. So there's some big changes. But when we did the LS, I think it was about 100 horsepower. A 210 pound per hour Bosch injector is the best injector for an LS. That's a lot of power. An LS4 Fiero would be cool. Then I could go to LS Fest. When we run turbos, I don't put supports on them when we run them on the dyno. On the LS stuff, the Y pipe that we have is really, really stout. And we have stock exhaust manifolds on it, which are also really stout. The flanges are really strong, and so I'm not too worried about it. I have on occasion on some really, like when I remember when we ran the HP Performance modular forward turbo stuff, because that positioned the turbos up basically in the fender. So they were really long. So when we would make runs, they would start to sag when they would get hot. I've seen the LS4 stuff. I went down the rabbit hole on the whole Fiero thing. If I was going to have one in a car, we would definitely build a support for it. I haven't dyno tested side draft Webers. Are you talking about a whole side draft cross ram intake manifold, or are you talking about the adapter that they use to put side drafts in place of a 4-barrel? That's a different thing. Would a turbocharged 4.6 in a Fiero be good? Yeah, turbocharged any kind of V8 is going to be good in a Fiero. If you did a 5.3 Darton wet sleeve, will you get 500 crank horsepower? Why do you need to do a sleeved one? You could get 500 NA from a 5.3 pretty easily. You don't have to sleeve it. I don't know about the drivability on the 210s. I've never tried to program that, never tried to tune it. 100-pound injectors would be fine for what you're doing. I should charge. Well, Dylan, there's nothing stopping you from throwing a couple of beer money bucks up for the super chats. What's the compression ratio on a 6-liter LS with 862 heads? It's gonna, if you change from a 317 to an 862 or a 706, you're gonna change it more than 1 full point, because you're going from 72 to 61, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't sleeve the block unless you're going to be running lots of boost. And on a iron LM7 block, or even on a 5.3 aluminum block, it'd be a lot of power before I would sleeve it. Well, I'm happy that the test went like we expected. It's amazing when you do runner length tests. Turbo quad 4, a quad 4 Fiero, I think is how it should have come. I did some sleeve blocks back in the day. I did an aluminum LS6 block that we sleeved, and I made a 468 out of it, and that worked really good. What are my thoughts on the relationship between rod length and increased dwell time and ignition timing? I haven't done a real test to figure out what that change is. When we did the piston swapping deal, it wasn't receptive any differently to timing, but we didn't really change it that much. If you're changing rod length, you could be changing it quite a bit. Oh, the Bosch 210s are high impedance. That's good. That makes it easier on the drivers. Should I buy a Mustang Mach-E or a Tesla? Should buy a Tesla, because I think my mom has stock in Tesla, so we want that stock to go up. Spaco, thank you very much. Cutting through all the BS. I can appreciate how you do it. I don't really go to car shows or events. I do go to the SEMA show and sometimes the PRI show. I haven't been to a car show in a long time. I think I would kind of like to take my boys to see one. And I'd like to go to a drag strip too. I don't go to drag strips very often. No, the piston dwell time is the dwell time at TDC. Uh, 680 cc's. Let's call that a 65 pound an hour. Times 2 is they'll support 130 horsepower per whole NA. So not a lot. And much less boosted. The air-to-air, air-to-water, you know, the guys that have one say it's the best, the guys that have the other say it's the best. We're obviously, when we were running the air-to-water on this, it was in an optimized condition. We have an unlimited source of cold water. We can make it flow as much as that thing will flow because we have a valve from the dyno that we could just probably burst the core on. And so it's as good as it can be. I don't think that core is sized to support, it's not sized to support 1,000 horsepower, it's sized to support the kind of power level that guys are going to be running by putting pulleys on these things. So it probably works fairly well. It packages very well. Trying to run some sort of intake manifold that allows the discharge to go out to a bigger core or something, you know, I think guys have done that. But honestly, doing all that stuff, I would much rather just put a turbo on it. I used to like, when I came down here for years and years, we used to go to the go-kart track that's local here, and that was a lot of fun. Although they wouldn't let anybody else drive with our group because it was it got a little chaotic. The dart and sleeve one that we did worked good. I need to get these heads off and set them. The other thing that we did to the heads that are on here right now, the ported heads, we did a bunch of stuff. We surfaced them. I had them cut the spring seats down so that we could have, and I also got the ZZP retainers so that we could have like a 175 installed height because we put 26 918 springs in it. I used the stock push rods. It still has the same lifters that came with the motor from the wrecking yard. It still has the same timing chain. It still has the same oil pump. In fact, I thought I broke the oil pump last night. It seemed like the oil pressure was down and I didn't know what was going on. And so I came in this morning and took it all apart, fully expecting to find pieces of the oil pump everywhere, but it was fine. I took the pan off and checked the pickup because it seemed like that we were not getting oil pressure. And I took the pan off and took that opportunity to clean the pan, check the pickup. All that was fine. The pan was fine. The oil pump was fine. I took checked the spring. All of that was fine. And all I did was change the oil and clean the pan and put a fitting for the turbo drain on it because the pan was already off. Might as well do it. Put all that stuff back on, started it up, and well, even before I started up, we just cranked it over on the dyno after putting new oil and filter on it, and voila, it had oil pressure. It was all good. I haven't run the 1.9 rockers on anything. I would like to try them on this cam because it's only a 505 or 510 lift cam. It needs more lift. Yeah, the LE1 would be good. I don't know what David's doing right now. They were here when I came down, and they were testing that Impala, and they were running it on the chassis dyno, and then they took off for some open adventure. Do you plan on running the larger Kenny Bell on this? I don't have an adapter for it. I have to make one. I don't really have a favorite lifter. As long as they work, I'm okay with it. I know they're getting ready to do more engine masters testing. They have a bunch of motors over here. Yeah, some guys cement the blocks. I've seen that. I've never seen the bearing or configuration that you were talking about. Okay, guys, 2 more minutes. I've already been on here a long time. Turboing your 318. I like that. Summit cams, all the ones I've tested have worked really well. I like breaking, somebody's asking about breaking their motor in with a turbo. I like breaking it in NA and then putting the turbo on it. Turbo B18 B1 9085, that should be fun. Those are really torquey. I was just talking to the guys out there because we got some Honda guys out there, so I'm reliving my Honda days. You have a 2017 Chevy with a turbo. Is that the 2-liter? I ran an, somebody was questioning about the air-to-water stuff. I ran an air-to-water on my Chevy Sprint for years, and it worked great. I loved it. I monitored the temperature, both of the water and the discharge, and it worked great. Here I can plug in my thing to say goodnight. I wish I had a Kai class car. Those would be great. I was gonna do I wanted to write a book on those. A Chevy Sprint turbo though is not a high class. A stage 2 or stage 3 would be sufficient. I would always go with the smaller one. When we did our Darton sleeve motor, we went to 4185. And we have put 4250 stroke cranks in them also. Yeah, and everybody hit the like button before you leave. All right, guys, I gotta get going. Thank you all for showing up, and hope you had a good adventure running the dyno test. I'm gonna see if I can figure out a way to move the harness out of the way so I can pull the lid off. Yo, are you guys out?
Yep.
All right, man, I'll see you guys later.